goalietrainingpro.com, and got Andrew Hare here, and we're going to do a little chit chat. So Andrew's played like NCAA, Division 1, Division 3. He's had a really good career so far over in Europe, playing in like France, Norway, Germany, I think, and now you're sort of dabbling a bit with coaching. But we met each other because maybe a month or two ago, I posted an interview I did with Kevin Carr, who also had a really different approach or path to pro hockey. And so that got us talking, and I found your path really compelling as well. So I wanted to sit down, you know, with you and sort of show, you know, goalies that there's more than one path to make it to pro hockey. So thank you very much for taking the time out. There's a big time difference too, because you're over in Germany. So I appreciate you joining us. How are things going so far today?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. As you said, like I watched Kevin's interview about a month ago there, and you know, me and Kevin played against each other in D3 hockey, and he was a very good goalie, probably the best at the time in D3. Just played on the lower team, so got lots of work. But yeah, things are good for me. You know, Corona's starting to come down over here, so they're slowly starting to open things up again. Definitely been a crazy year on the coaching front in terms of like Corona pauses and stuff like that. But other than that, everything's good.
Yeah, that's good. It's been a learning curve for everybody. You know, it's interesting times for sure. Let's just start. Can you just give us a quick overview of sort of your path from, you know, from minor hockey through, just kind of the Reader's Digest version? Did you play minor in Burlington? Is that where you grew up?
Yeah, so I was born in Peterborough, so I played minor hockey there for 4 years. Then my dad got a job. I guess he worked for Quaker Oats. They got bought by Pepsi, so we had to move to Mississauga. So we moved to Burlington, and then yeah, I played Burlington minor hockey all the way up. I actually was a defenseman in Peterborough before I became a goalie, so I became a goalie at 10. That was the family rule. I grew up watching the Petes. We had season tickets in the OHL there, and I always fancied the goalies, and my parents were like, "No, you can't be a goalie not till you're 10, not till you're 10." And I turned 10, and on my birthday, I remember being like, "Yeah, I want to be a goalie." And they were like, "Okay." And
they're
so,
thinking like he'll forget about this whole goalie thing.
yeah. No, and honestly, like I ended up, it's just a short story, but like my first year trying out, they had two goalies, and I was the third, and they were like, you know what, like you have an option here. If you want to go back to D, we'll take you on AAA. If you don't, you're going to go down to AA. And it was, all my friends were on AAA, and but I knew I wanted to be a goalie, and I knew I could make it. And that year I went down to AA. I actually played out every game that I didn't play because I was just one of the better players still on out. And then the next year I ended up making AAA. So it just, I worked hard that summer and got up there, and then yeah, played AAA all the way up, moved to Burlington, stayed in AAA. Didn't have the strongest draft year, so I didn't get drafted to the OHL. Played my midget year, went to a couple OHL camps, actually made one of the teams after 48 hours, but at that point I just kind of decided that it'd be better to go do my school because I'd already missed a year of eligibility in the O. So I played Tier 2 junior in Burlington for the Cougars for 2 years. It was a lot of fun, really enjoyed it there. I played Team Canada the 1 year, went to an all-star game the other, so I had a lot of success that way in junior. And then, yeah, luckily I got a D1 scholarship, went to Niagara for a year and a half, for multiple reasons, but obviously the main one was I wasn't playing, and I just thought I deserved to play. So I ended up leaving and going D3, and after that, had a lot of success there, and then went to Europe. So 2 years in France, 1 year in Norway, and 3 years in Germany. And then now I've stayed over there, started coaching, and my girlfriend's from here, so bought a place here. So
yeah, it's great. It's so cool. And I think, like, I always get so excited for guys when they get the chance to go to Europe because, especially if you're a hockey player, like you've just been immersed in hockey, and and you don't have time to travel and go other places, and it's like so exciting to get to like live somewhere different and really like immerse yourself and have to, you know, day to day figure it out. Like it's not like you're just a, you know, on holiday. Like you got to figure out how to live there, and it's such a different lifestyle in Europe that it's pretty cool when you see how, like, you know, even over here, like I don't know what it's like where you live in Germany, but like, you know, over here, obviously, if like a building has a crack in it, it's like, well, you can't live there. That's dangerous, you know. And like, you know, in England or in France, it's like, oh, we'll put like a metal brace and you're good. Like, you know, and the windows will be like crooked like this, but it's like, that's fine, you know. And it's kind of a simpler approach.
It's historic too, to be honest. Like, I've lived in some really nice places and some not so nice places. But yeah, the big thing with being in Europe for me was I knew all along I wanted to go. Like I had no intention of, trying to play over in North America when I was done college. I just felt that there was so, especially at a goalie position, only one can play, and it's really only 2, 3 spots a team. So I just knew that a lot of NHL teams would have prospects they were placing the AHL East Coast, and then the SP. Like I didn't really know much about it. A couple teammates went, but I wanted to go to Europe, and yeah, so there's that, like the ability to be able to travel was also really cool. My first 2 years in France, I lived in the French Alps, so beautiful in the winter, like amazing, and with massive ski resorts, crazy drunk fans. It was
Yeah.
cool that way.
Yeah.
When I lived in Norway, I lived just outside Oslo, which is the capital. To me,
Yeah.
it was a very clean Toronto. Super nice. People are
Yeah.
great. They speak better English than we do. Like their grammar is just like stuff that I don't even know like what the words mean, and
Yeah.
very proper. So that was a good experience. And then yeah, in Germany, just what can I say? Like, you picture well, first you have the history here with everything, and then also you picture the crazy like soccer fans you see in Europe, whether it's Italy, England, whatever, and that's what it is in German hockey. Like
Yeah.
it's people banging drums all game, drinking beer, throwing pennies on the ice, throwing beer cans on the ice. Like it's it's
Yeah.
it's awesome. Obviously this year there's been no fans, which is unfortunate, but I got to play in some pretty fun buildings and some crazy crowds and had success doing that. So that was definitely a highlight of coming to Europe. It's just a different crowd atmosphere for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like there's nothing to me. There's nothing better than seeing a game in Europe. I was when I was in Stockholm, like not this fall, but the fall before, presenting at their symposium was when the NHL had their games over there, and so we went to the NHL games at the big rink there, and then I went with my friend Tomas, took me to see the Jurgarden game, and he's like sort of apologetic, like this is a really old barn, and and like the steps like to get up to the stands were like this big each. It's like holy jump, like. But yeah, like exactly that, like a band playing and the songs, and it's like this is way more fun than the NHL games were over there. It's just yeah, unbelievable. So that's so cool. Let's I want to just actually pick your brain a little bit, because yeah, you have this unique perspective because you've had the D1 experience and the D3 experience. And so can you kind of comment on the pros and the cons of both, because I'm sure they both have their good bits, and then they both have sort of the not as great bits.
Yeah, so like first I'll say everyone's experience is different. Mine, going D1 was awesome because I had a full ride, so my school was paid for. It's obviously that's an expensive thing to do, go to American college, university. Um, when I transferred D3, unfortunately, like my parents had to pay for that, and luckily it was only 2 years, but um, before I got there, the Canadian players actually had this like scholarship package, but I wasn't able to apply for it because I came halfway through the year, and then my third year they ended up getting rid of it. So in the end, I wasn't allowed to do it. But I don't know if they've changed that rule now, if it's gone back to having some relief. But so that's definitely one. normally I'd say in D1, like, you know, you're at a school where you're, you know, really nice facilities and stuff like that. Funny enough, though, like when I went to Oswego, like they have a nicer rink than what was at Niagara and got more fans. Like we sold out every game at 3,000 people at Niagara when I was there. It's only one side of seats and like metal stands. And, you know, we were lucky to get 1,200. Like it's just, you know, I was in a small town in Oswego and they live by that team. And so that was good. So I, you know, but I'd say normally, you know, D1 places normally will have like the bigger attendances than, you know, when I went D3, like some of the schools we played against, like they would have like 300 fans. And, you know, so that's definitely a little different. I think too, like, you know, when you go D1, like a lot of guys are hoping after to like, you know, maybe if I do good, I can sign an NHL contract or an AHL contract or whatever. Where D3, you know, a lot of guys just know like they're there to have fun, to play hockey and get their schooling done. And then after it's on to the real world. I mean, not to say people haven't moved on like myself or Kevin or other people, but, you know, it's just a different mindset that way. And, you know, a lot of guys I played with at Oswego could easily have been D1 guys, but maybe like their grades weren't good enough to get into D1, or they just didn't have that drive or work ethic, you know, that D1 players had. And, you know, it's you know, if you want to spend the money or if you want to have 4 years university, if you want to enjoy your university, then hey, that's there's nothing wrong with that. And we had a lot of fun at Oswego on and off the ice and had some good teams. You know, we lost in the championship twice and a lot of good memories there. I guess too, like just like with coaches, like when I was at Niagara, like we had a head coach, full-time head coach, full-time assistant. We had like a grad student as like the second assistant, and then just like a full-time trainer and equipment guy. Where at Oswego, we had like, I'm pretty sure our trainer was like for all this, the main one was for all the sports, and you had like some helpers. We had a head coach, a full-time head coach, full-time assistant, and then a grad student as well. My goalie coach was actually like 1 day a week, just like a volunteer guy that I played. Um, so yeah, stuff like that. And then obviously the equipment was a little different. Like at Niagara, we were sponsored by Bauer and stuff. So we got home and away helmets, gloves, like unlimited sticks. Like goalies got gear every year.
Yeah.
Where at Oswego, we were Bauer, but we had two pieces until my last year. You got new helmets and gloves every 2 years. Goalies got new gear every 2 years. So if you're there 4 years, you only get two sets of gear.
Wow.
So like I ended up buying my own set once or twice. So I'd say those are like the big differences that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. Like, cause yeah, I think it's a question that a lot of people have, and they're not, you know, there's just sort of some of the things behind the scenes that you don't see. I'm going to ask, so, you know, we're going to talk first about sort of the lowest point, I guess, in your hockey career, and a time that you really had to battle, and how you worked your way out of that. And then, you know, and then we'll pick it up too, to like, what's been the highlight of your career? Because, you know, I think when you are in that, in a hole, in a tough spot, goalies feel like they're alone, like they're the only one that, you know, why is this happening to me? And you know, and sometimes it's hard to find the path out, and also sometimes it's hard to think too, like, hey, there's, you know, there's going to be there's highs and lows, and so just because I'm going through a low, it doesn't mean there's not going to be another high down the road.
Yeah. So for me, there's two lows that come to mind. The first one is obviously when I had to transfer. You know, being on a full ride, I'd played for Team Canada before and gone to Niagara. I think I was the fourth ranked goalie prospect, and you know, was in their own conference, and now they're in the Atlantic, and you know, people have always frowned on that as like the weaker one or whatever. So for me, it was a good accomplishment, and yeah, I wasn't playing as much, and I felt like I was trying to be changed from the goalie that I had success to something else. And I remember leaving when I made that decision, like, you know, coaches telling me and people being like, well, you're done. Like, you're not going anywhere. Like, you're going to finish your school and then you're done. You're D3. Like, that's pathetic or whatever. And that just honestly fueled the fire under me. Like, you know, I'm a prove you wrong kind of person. So yeah, that was definitely tough. And then, you know, I obviously went on to have success and move on. And then my second year here, actually in Heilbronn, my first year I had a really good year. I came in halfway. Became a fan favorite. I got MVP in the playoffs, signed back here. I don't think I had the best summer in terms of training. I'm sure that's something we can get into later. But anyways, the first like 10 games didn't really go that well for me. You know, I was definitely struggling to find my game and what I was the year before. And the next 10 games, I actually ended up getting better, better, better. But sport business, you know, overall, I wasn't performing as best and I got released. So getting bought out was kind of
Mm.
probably the low of the low. Like I remember being like, well, what am I going to do? Like my stats are bad. Like where am I going to go? I ended up going back to Norway to the last place team for a month or two. That was honestly so hard because we, you know, if we lost a game 4-0, it was a win. Like I'd get 50 shots and, you know, a lot of like my first two of my first 4 games, I led in 8 goals. And
Oh,
I like just like, you know, you're playing well if, you know, with and like maybe a couple were weak, but like, you know, still like 5, 6 are like hard goals to stop. And so, you know, I thought that I was basically that's what I was going to be resorted to was maybe going back there. They'd be my only option next year. And I got a break at the deadline. I got a team in Germany was looking for a goalie just to like come there because they were going on a playoff run just in case somebody got hurt. So I went there, practiced for about a month and a half, didn't see a game. And then in the semifinals, after game 3, the number 1 goalie got hurt. And I got called 8 a.m. of the game 4 being like, you're playing. So I went in that night, I got a shutout. And then we played 2 days later at home and we won in overtime. And then with Germany, you have affiliation. So like kind of like NHL, AHL. So
okay.
we had a team in Munich that had a goalie that they could send up and down. So he came down, played game 6, we won. And then both Munich and us were going to the finals and they needed that kid back up there. So he went back up and I ended up playing the whole finals. So, you know, even though we didn't win the finals, like it was such a like just like a great experience for me because like how the year started and how I thought like, you know, like it was going to be over and I would never get a chance again to, you know, going to the finals and being I think we lost in 5, so like 3 wins away from winning a championship. Like for that year, it was just the ultimate, like kind of like f you to the like the coach that had cut me and stuff like that, and just prove to myself that okay, like that was a fluke at the start of the year. Like you can still play, and you just played after sitting for 2 months or whatever. You just played in high pressure games and played your game and helped your team win. And the coach at the end of the year even said that to me. He's like, honestly, like he's like, you deserve so much thanks that like I can't say it enough. Like if we didn't have you, we never would have made it on. And what you did is to come in March and meet all these new guys and just be a practice goalie after being like a number 1 the past 2 years and just kept your mouth shut and then you got a chance and you took it. So I'd say that those two, like maybe the second one a little more, definitely some downtimes that, you know, if you can find a way to battle through, you never know. Like I've learned in my life that you never know when you're going to get a chance, or when your luck's going to turn. You know, it's probably at the moment you don't expect. So I remember waking up to that text being like, you're playing. And it was 8 a.m. our time. So it was 2 a.m. back home. And me and my parents have like a game day ritual where they text me something, blah, blah, blah. I remember texting my parents being like, I'm in. And like it woke them up at 2:30 in the morning. And then, you know, they didn't say anything. And then later the day I got the text and I'm like, hey, like here we go. Like, and it's a little short story to that, but it was so funny, like being on the bus going to this game, we're playing away. And like, you know, like I don't have the best practice habits. I'll be the first one to tell you that. So you could tell some of the guys on the bus were kind of like, oh man, I can't believe he's playing. Like what?
Yeah.
Like just like like, and I'm laughing in my head. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, boys, I'm gonna be good. Like I was so confident because I knew this was my chance, and I normally rise to those occasions. So I was like, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. And then boom, shutout. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's, you know, that's the I think that must be the hard part is like the goalies I work with in turning pro, it's the same, you know, it's like, well, okay, so that happened, but now our job is to be ready for the next opportunity because it's going to come. And if you're not, you know, if we're going to sit around and pout about it for 2 weeks, you know, what if that opportunity comes and you're not ready? And, but it must be, you know, what did you tell yourself to sort of keep that mentality? Like, okay, well, I'm going to keep working for the next opportunity that I get.
um yeah, I guess that when I was on that when I got to that team in Germany, like, you know, I'll be the first one to admit there was some days where I was the first one out of the rink being like, this is awful. Like I'm just a target. It's definitely tough. You know, for me, I guess it was just, you know, I was happy to be back in Germany. It was better than letting an 8 a game in Norway where I was. And I said, you know what, if you can at least show this coach, you know, that you have potential, maybe he'll talk to someone for you next year and be like, you know what, like, even though he didn't play, like Andrew had great work ethic, did everything we asked of him. I think he just had a little bump in the road to start the year and blah, blah, blah. And that coach ended up actually going on to be the German national team coach like that after that season. So, you know, if I was German, it'd be great.
Yeah.
But no, but just, you know, like he was a really good coach, a really good guy, understood it. And yeah, like I said, you know what, like, you know what, I'm there, and worst comes to worst, like the time you're going to put in practice will probably make you a better goalie for next year whenever you get your chance. And you know, I was very fortunate enough that, you know, a break like that happened. Like I never wish an injury upon anyone, but it was just something so random, and you know, it allowed me to go play and you know, continue living my dream, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. If you could if you could go back to sort of 15, 16-year-old Andy, what would you tell yourself to do differently at that time?
Be a player. Um, no, honestly, like, so you get drafted to OHL when you're 16. 15-year-old, I had a really good year. I was really like highly touted. That summer was like kind of when like I started beginning like really like training, like, you know, when you like maybe it was late, but whatever. But I definitely like just was going to a gym, like a local gym, and I wasn't taking it seriously. I just thought like, you know what, like your talent alone will get you through this. And the difference was everyone else was working out and the shots got harder, and the other goalie was putting in so much effort. He ended up getting drafted to the OHL, and I had a tough start again and just, you know, couldn't really get it back. And, you know, I remember like after that OHL draft had ended, I remember crying in my bedroom being like, you know, because I grew up in Peterborough. So the OHL is all I knew. And I was like, oh my God, like my life's over. Like I'm just going to go play high school hockey. Like I'm done. And my parents brought me down to the living room later that day. Like they could tell I was really upset. And they said, look, said, you can either quit right now and we'll totally support it. Like we understand, like if you don't want to do it anymore, or the hard work begins now. And, you know, as I said, I've never been a quitter. And so I just took that as motivation. I worked so hard that summer. I went to a new goalie coach. He changed the way I was playing that actually benefited me. Like I'm 5'10", and I was playing really small, like blocking a lot. And I just adjusted my hands. I started using my hands a lot more, and I became a 6'2" goalie because I took away net in space, kept my hands up high, and I had really good reactions. Like, you know, I played baseball and stuff. So, and then yeah, that midget year, the goalie that got drafted, he actually got called up to the OHL a lot. So like I was the only goalie. So I played, you know, normally then you're rotating games. I probably played 80% of the games. So that was amazing for my development. I got called up to the Burlington junior team a couple of times just to back up. And then, yeah, like I'd say like if I was 15, 16, me again, I would just have definitely worked harder in the gym and also enjoy the experience. I noticed this even when I was playing pro. Like you're so focused on a goal that's like 2, 3 steps ahead, and you're putting so much pressure on yourself, being like, yeah, like I have to have a good year. Like that was me the second year in the second league in Germany. Like I wanted to get to the top league, so I was like, okay, I need to have another good year. And like you play games where you play well, you're letting in 1 or 2 goals, and you're still over critiquing yourself, being like, yeah, like I let in 2 goals, but that second goal, like that, you know, if I did this, that doesn't go in. And you just think like at the end of the year, those are going to add up when you should just honestly like play the game, be patient, trust yourself. And then, like you said, where goalies, they start thinking about like bad games over and over again. Like I just have a new rule now where like I'm more relaxed, and it's just like a 24-hour rule. Like
Mhm.
that night I'll think about it next morning, maybe like if talk about it with the goalie coach, whatever. And then once I get back on the ice, it's gone. Like you wouldn't, it's the first game of the year again. Like it's,
Yeah.
and that's something that, I definitely matured late when it came to that. Some goalies mature at 17, 18 when they're playing the OHL, and others, go to college or whatever. Like, for that understanding of the game, I definitely got later in my career. And especially once I became a coach, you realize like how simple it actually could be if you just keep it simple. The minute you start complicating things is when you definitely run into trouble, and it just becomes a mind battle.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really a mental skill to learn to do that. It's not instinctive to just sort of put it aside like that. It's something you have to like practice deliberately so that you have that skill. Like if there's goalies that are thinking of playing in Europe, because I think like I really like how you said, like I knew I wanted to play in Europe, for these reasons. And I think goalies discount what a great career it can be. And it isn't just like, oh well, that's my plan C. It's like, no, that's actually like a good legit path. So if there are goalies out there who want to play in Europe, what's your advice to them? Because it seems like there's a lot of like there's advisors and this and that, and it seems like sometimes, not that it's necessarily shady, but maybe it's just not quite as they're not quite as equipped to help you out as maybe they'd like you to think.
Yeah, luckily for me, like my best friend's dad played a long time in Europe, so he actually was my agent when I was playing. Very good guy when it comes to talking to people, knows the game, was able to sell me really well. So he probably got me a couple chances that I didn't technically deserve if you just looked at like my resume and where I'd play. Like he just believed in me, and I thank him for this. He got me a lot of places I said I shouldn't have gone. But at the same time, like I think, when you get to higher levels, you definitely need someone, not, I don't want to say more respected, but I'd say more well known, because like some teams like won't take your calls if they don't know the agent or something. So as far as advisors go, early on, I mean, you can do it yourself, but maybe if you have someone you trust, I'd recommend going with them, because at the end of the day, it takes the personalness out of it. Like if it's you dealing with a team and you feel like you're getting lowballed, it's really hard to be professional and be like, well, actually, I think this, instead of just being like, are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
so, and we had a good relationship with me and the guy that helped me. Like I literally would just get him all the contacts and let him call. So we kind of split the work 50-50, and I would pay him for his phone bill and stuff like that. But in terms of going to Europe for goalies, I think it's great. Like I never regretted, why didn't I try a year in the ECHL or something? Like I just, it just, for me, I was so happy to go to Europe. I always knew I wanted to go because of this guy talking about it. And like, I'm best friends with his son. So like we hung around together all the time, and hearing him talk about it, it was just great. And, a lot of the lower leagues, like you're making more money in Europe because it's euros or whatever, and it's tax free. And then you come home, you have the exchange rate. So plus all your living's paid for. You get a car
Yeah.
depending where you are, flights, equipment, everything. So like, and like for example, in ECHL, like it's an opening door. Like there's so many people going in and out week after week. Where in Europe, it's like, if you're performing, like a lot of teams are going to keep you around, and there's less turnover that way. So I saw an opportunity that way. And um, if you like going, if you're comfortable being alone and being in weird places where you don't speak the language, then go. Like I honestly, my first year in France, like I almost quit after the first 2 months because it was so tough. The town was dead because it wasn't winter. It was French. I didn't know a lot of French. My roommates were French Canadian, and so they just spoke to each other and they knew each other. And like, so I was pretty lonely at times. And with the time difference and not being up back then, like FaceTime and stuff, like it wasn't really that popular. So like, Skype and stuff. So you talk to your parents once a week, and it got tough at times, but I got through it. And I'm so thankful that I did, because it opened up another 6 years for me. And then it just became easy. Like now I'm over here, and yeah, do I miss stuff in Canada? For sure. But, I'm happy being here. I'm learning, I can speak German. So it's good. So any goalie out there, like, whenever this interview airs or whatever, like you can give them my social and they can reach out to me. And if they have any questions, like I'll answer honestly, because there's some people I think it would be a great experience, but you have to be realistic. Like you can't be like, hey, I'm coming from D3. How do I get to the top Swiss league?
Yeah.
Well, like, I'm sorry, but that'll never happen unless you have a license, you know, like you
Yeah.
got to work your way up. Like, you know, when I started in France was the top league, but in terms of Europe leagues, it was probably the lower top league. So I worked my way. I took less money to get it to go there. I went back a second year, proved myself. Then I went up to Norway, which is a great league, and then I got to Germany, etc. Like, you know, unless you get like a really lucky break or like, you know, a coach, you definitely have to, like, for the first year or two, you got to pay your dues and you got to perform. You got to put up those results, and that's what it is. And a lot of scouting is done on elite prospects.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the higher organizations, they'll have scouts, they'll have video, they'll have websites where there's video to see you. It's definitely coming along. But those other leagues, like, it's literally just the agent telling them. No agent's going to tell you that their player's bad, and it's just elite prospects. So for me, like, luckily I always had, like, in college, I had 2 back-to-back years of 1 point something goals against and 930 something save percentage. So that first French team that I went to knew, okay, like, you know, he's had 2 consistent years of this. And so
Yeah. Yeah. What do you miss about being in North America?
I'd say just the familiarness of some stuff. Honestly, God, I miss, like, I'm in Europe and like everything here is like coffees or espressos. Like I
Yeah.
miss like just a nice big cup of coffee sometimes, or like Tim Hortons.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so just simple stuff like that, or like it's just, for me, I think it's about like the familiarity of, like, you know, where I am in Burlington, and, you know, like you can go here, here, and here. I think that's honestly it. Like, honestly, my best friend plays in Switzerland now. One of my other good friends was playing in Europe for a long time. He just retired. So like a lot of my friends were over here anyway. So it's like if I was home, I wasn't really missing much. Obviously, I miss my family, my dog. Um, but yeah, there's just stuff you learn to live without. And then a lot of times I'll pack my suitcase with stuff that they don't have over here, whether it's like this year they didn't have avocado oil the start of the year that I cooked with, so I brought that, or like Frank's Red Hot sauce or something. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
it's something so minor, and or protein powder that I like or whatever. So yeah, but other than that, you know, everything else here, like, there's ways to find it in their form, and or variation of it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your coaching now, and sort of how you got into coaching and what that's like for you.
Yeah, kind of another like crazy Andrew story, hockey pass story. Yeah, like I just, you know, I wasn't getting the offers I wanted to play like professional anymore. So the fourth league over here in Germany is actually, I would consider it basically senior A back home. So I had opportunity to play here the 1 year to finish it. So I did it, liked it. The next year, you know, there's not a lot of goalie coaches in Germany. There's a good amount, but I would, you know, back home, like in Toronto, like every 2 blocks there's a goalie coach, like someone is a goalie coach of some sort. So I just figured that there was a better way to work my way up here and be well known, especially if I could learn the language. So I came back here. I had 2 minor hockey associations that I was goalie coaching for once a week and making all right money doing it. And then in September or late August, the Del 2 team of the second league team of one of the teams was like, yeah, we're looking for a goalie coach. We're actually looking for a Canadian one. And I was like, well, you guys know me. I played against you 2 years ago. Like, hey.
Yeah.
And so right away I got the job. Like, and, you know, I was there once a week and just going to home games, and it was good. And then they actually ended up firing the head coach in November. And the assistant guy was also the general manager. And he just said to me, he's like, look, like, do you want to be the assistant the rest of the year? And I was like, yeah, no problem. So just kind of learning on the fly. Like, I honestly had no experience, and just kind of right place, right time. So I started doing that, and I was there every day. There was 1 game a week that I probably couldn't go to because I had my team's game, and they were the first, so I respected the contract and just went, and he was okay with it. And yeah, so I did that for the rest of the year. And then yeah, Corona happened. So, you know, summer was interesting. I started with another Del 2 team this year, going there every 2 weeks. It's a 4-hour drive away. So I'd go for three days, come back as a goalie coach. And then in October, they said, yeah, we can't afford this. Like, we need to save our money in case we need players. So kind of got let go there. And then the local team here that I played for, like I knew the one goalie. He was actually the goalie that got hurt on that team that I took over for. And he said, yeah, like, would you mind coming to work with me? Like we don't have anyone and I would like some help. And I said, yeah, no problem. So I've been there ever since. And, actually had a lot of calls today about stuff for next year. So things are looking pretty good, hopefully. My dream job is to be more on the managerial side. Like in Germany, they call the sport manager, or back home, the general manager. So I've kind of started networking that and trying to reach out and just get my name known to people. If I could start somewhere as an assistant or something and work my way up, you obviously have to be pretty fluent in German to do that. So that's why I continue to learn German. But yeah, it's just, honestly, everything's open. Like, as I spoke to you before, I work for Hockey Shot sometimes too. So that's like a side job for me. And then I actually did a Pepsi interview today as well for a summer job. So I'm just trying to see what side of the pond is better. If the hockey stuff can keep going, great, then I can stay here. That'll keep my girlfriend happy as well. But also, like, I have a business degree. So if I want to go home and just kind of say, like it's time to get into the real world back home and work my way up there, then, that door is always, I'm trying to get like a foot in each door, I guess you would say. So
yeah, that's an exciting, it's an uncertain time, but it's an exciting time too, because it's just, what's the next path? Andrew, where can people find you on social? Where's the best place for them to get a hold of you if they do have questions?
I guess Instagram is what I use the most. It's just Haresy31. Like you can put it up later or whatever. I think you have my Instagram. Yeah, it's basically Haresy31 for everything. So Twitter, Snapchat, but I don't think people want to talk to me on Snapchat. So just we'll keep it at Instagram. But yeah, that's what they can get. They can get a hold of me, and any questions, like don't feel like there's a bad one. Like, I've asked a lot of interesting ones in my life just because you're curious and you want to know like about stuff and all that, and I'll try to help them best I can. I don't think I can offer any contracts right now in case some people are wanting those, but
you get some of those probably.
No, but yeah, like whether it's, summer training, I've worked with various goalie coaches in the GTA area, and, I can tell you what they did for my game in terms of positiveness and stuff like that. And then, yeah, like my experiences in college and both pro and anything else.
Perfect. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience, because I think, people sort of get these blinders that this is the path. And if something goes wrong and they hit a bump on that path, then, it's like, it feels like it's the end when it's not. It's just, okay, what's my next best path? So I really appreciate you sharing your story and your advice with us. And I know that everyone else does too. So thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, it's a grind, and I think if it was easy, then everyone would do it. So that's just something you got to keep back in mind, and your hard work will pay off one day. That's the truth.